I'd like to read a statement first. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We are aware that this meeting is being recorded by Fall River Educational TV. I'd like to start by a roll call for attendance, starting with Joan Medeiros.
Joan Medeiros here. Ann Keene here.
John Erickson here.
Joe Marshall here.
Louis Gonzalez here.
Okay, and also here is our counsel, John Coughlin, Sarah Page, Executive Director, and Ken Fiola, Administrative Services Consultant, Bristol County EDC. The first item on the agenda is approval of open session minutes from March 31st, 2021. Everyone received a copy. I know I did. Is there any additions, deletions, discussion, or a motion to approve?
I move we approve.
John? Yeah. Is there a second? Second by Joan. All in favor, aye? Anyone opposed? I don't need a roll call. We're here.
You're in person.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, we also have a copy, is the approval of warrant and brief financial report. Is there any discussion on the warrant or the financial report? Any discussion? You okay? Yeah. Is there a motion to accept it? Is that Joan? Second? John Erickson. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Unanimous. Oh yeah, we had continued discussion regarding hiring a consultant to flag wetlands on Innovation Way. You want to bring us up to date with that, please?
So there have been a number of discussions, both Carvana and the group that's interested and has given us another LOI have both said that they would immediately go out and flag the wetlands. And so after a number of discussions, I think the recommendation is that we let the company that wants to buy the land go ahead and flag the wetlands, because both of them said they would well, Carvana was adamant they wouldn't listen to anything that we had done. They would immediately go out and do their own. So I think, and I also wrote Renee about a week ago and said, you know, I talked with her about the fact that we thought the bid was just so high and that it was more money than we felt we wanted to spend for flagging wetlands, and she agreed that it was a lot of money. And she hasn't gotten back to me with my question, which was, would you flag a particular area? You know, would you just do one little section? But in the meantime, you know, there's been a number of discussions with people who have felt that we should just wait and let a developer flag it.
Let me ask, Ken, with your experience,
Yep.
okay, is that adequate? I mean, to have land for sale and to wait for the actual intended buyer to actually do that, is that normal? Let me
ask. So, excuse me, initially we had actually flagged all the wetlands out there. And they're supposed to be certified, I think it's every 3 to 5 years. Okay, so I'm not quite sure when the last certification was. Having certified wetlands helps because you already understand what your wetlands are and they've been certified. I think the time for certification has passed, so they have to be reflagged anyway. So it's probably, you know, from a cost perspective, if someone is interested in the property, we can provide them with the previous approved wetland flagged area as a guide to them, and then they'll go out and recertify their own,
Okay.
submit it to the Conservation Commission, and they should be, wetlands don't necessarily expand tremendously, right? And if they do, there's usually an underlying condition that's causing that, and it may not be true wetlands, but whatever. So hopefully the initial work that we've done, the certifications we did thereafter, can provide them with that roadmap, and they can go out and be similar to what we've done, but it's being done on their own nickel as opposed to the redevelopment.
Right, and
authorities.
that's normally wouldn't be a deal breaker either.
No.
No, okay,
No.
that was my only concern is, okay,
Right.
we have to do that. Thank you.
Well, I think the problem is that we could assume that we have land that turns out to not be buildable. And so,
But that, we accept that, we know that, actually.
We'll find out. I
Yeah,
don't
we'll
see-
find
to
out,
me, you know,
it's something.
I don't, again, I believe in the initial wetland flagging that we
Sure.
did, and that should be the real wetland flagging, right?
Right.
So unless something's happened that caused those wetlands to grow, wetlands typically don't grow.
No,
So-
but there wouldn't be a reason for recertification other than
Right.
to make sure,
Correct.
to make sure.
And the only time wetlands really come into play is if the building, you know, for parking areas.
Where it's gotta be.
Right, exactly. So,
Yeah.
you know, you gotta have a buffer from your wetland anyway, so.
I think it's safe then, based on the information we have, maybe we can entertain a vote to leave any further wetland delineation to the developers who are interested in purchasing the land. Is that safe to say? Could I have, I think we should have a vote indicating that. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I move we vote to have the prospective buyer perform the updated wetland survey.
Is
John
it-
Harrison.
All right, is there a second to that?
Second, Joan Madera.
Joan Maderas, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. That's off your plate, unless you have a question.
no, I want to just add something else in this financial report section that is not in the little, it's not in the list, but I realized that I should just mention that I'm going to have you sign the beta contract that we reviewed and approved at the last meeting.
Okay.
And I told you that the cost estimator line item was going to be removed.
That's right.
And then I got a corrected, new updated version from Beta, and they then added their own $3,000 for a cost estimator. So it was $7,000, it's now $3,000 for a cost estimation that they're doing.
Okay.
And so that was a difference, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention before Joe signed it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions relative to that? No? Okay, thank you. Next item, project updates, and we have them listed here. You want to start with that? Okay. City Pier?
Yep, so I think I'll just start with the budget for City Pier, which has been the agonizing piece
has.
that we've been working very hard on.
Yep.
And we also were concerned with all of the challenges with engineering and going back and forth with the EPA and the DEP that, we were really getting behind in our schedule. But it seems as though everything is in line to go out to bid. It's going to be advertised next week.
Okay, good.
And then the bid documents will be available on May 6th. So it will be advertised May 5th. The documents will be ready May 6th. We'll do a site visit, the site will be open for people to come look at the week after. And we'll also have a bidders conference, presumably on Zoom. So, and then the bid opening will be June 3rd.
Okay.
And the city's approved that, and that seems to all be a go.
So it was just a little bit late, but not
Yeah.
about a month.
It at least went, it's pretty much in line with what we talked about a month ago.
I know, okay,
So,
all right. Any questions relative to the city pier? For Sarah? No?
Sarah,
Well-
did Eric just send something through about a date for the site visit?
yes.
Was it April, no, I mean, May 15th or something like that?
Yeah, he sent a couple.
That's a
of-
Saturday, I don't think.
He sent a couple of different dates.
That's
Yeah, I
a
think one of
Saturday.
them said April by mistake.
Yeah, there were a number of wrong dates today. I had one that was wrong. So,
I couldn't figure it out.
so let me send you the final, you'll get a final advertisement with everything clearly correct in it that's going to the Central Register tomorrow, and it will have everything clear exactly when everything is
Right,
happening.
but the documents will be available May 6th.
Yes.
And the bids will be open on June 3rd.
Yes,
And everything will
those
be
are
turned.
correct.
Okay,
And there was just a little bit of movement about that week of May 12th, exactly when the pre-bid conference and the open site are.
okay.
I think he said, the last thing he said was Friday, May
Yeah.
14th.
Right,
Yeah.
yep. And
Okay.
I think that they're doing the pre-bid conference the 13th, Thursday. So let me go to the budget now. So what we're putting in the ad, but I haven't talked with Ken about this yet, but the latest is that we would put $2,500,000. So it's 100,000 below our 2.6. Sometimes you strategize and you cut more funds off, hoping that it will come in even lower, but Beta is proposing that it be 2.5. And the one area that is not in this is the cathodic protection. And we were on...
Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, so cathodic, and I will call
Oh,
on
okay.
Ken to help with that. But cathodic protection is putting a 60-pound cathode, right, on the,
Sheet
on
metal.
every one of the
Pilings?
pier
Pilings.
Sheet piles.
pilings,
The pilings, yeah.
but they're the piece that sticks out.
The
piling.
extruding piece, they're
Thank
like
you.
V-shaped, so it'd be on the corner of the V, like,
Good,
Right,
The ridge.
the ridge, yes.
there you go.
that's the word.
And so divers would put them on, and all the work would be done off the pier. So one of the questions that we had was,
Not off the pier.
right, I
On the
mean,
water side.
Outside
on
of
the
the
water
water
side
side.
of the pier, not
Right.
on the pier.
On the pier.
Yep. And one concern was, should we be bidding this with the whole bid package because they might need to use the pier as their landing area to do the work.
To work
And
from, yeah.
the information we got is that that wouldn't be the case. That
Oh.
they really would do everything from a barge and wouldn't need to use it, use the pier to work from. So the other piece of information that we got that led us to feel it really makes sense to separate that off and not have it part of the bid package is that there are highly specific companies that do this work. And that Johnny and I talked about this and thought that it made a whole lot of sense to be able to bid it ourselves so we don't have the markup of the GC, but also to be able to have just those companies that are expert in this be encouraged to bid, have them bid, have us be able to pick, hopefully the low bidder would be one of the really expert firms, and we would be able to just work directly with them, and that it didn't make sense to really mix that into the whole general contracting bid. And it also, the good news is that the consultant that they hired, who is an expert in cathodic protection, said that he thought that we had at least a year, if not 2 years, before we utterly had to do it. That yes, it is corroding, and you can see it, but that in the scheme of things, it wouldn't make a big difference if it was done this year versus next year.
So you could do both constructions either simultaneously, they're not connected.
Right, they're
And
disconnected.
and that's the best.
Yep.
Okay.
And so the 340,000 is way over our budget. We had never put that kind of cathodic protection project into our original thinking of the budget. And so it would allow us time to try to find that funding from some other source and to plan for it and do it separately.
Good.
So that's the thinking right now. The other piece I want to mention is that the cathodic protection for 340,000 is only below the water. So the above water corrosion that Johnny has taken pictures of, and some of you may have seen the rusting, that needs to be dealt with separately. So we don't even have a price for that, but that's not as complicated and as expensive. They said that we could basically have the same barge that will have divers on it, have people basically cleaning the surface, grinding off the corrosion, and coating it. And that it is coated. They said it has been coated, but that the coating doesn't completely protect against corrosion, and that needs to be redone. And that the algae that's growing on there also should be scraped up.
Didn't that engineer from Tampa the other day, though, didn't at the end he say that that number was pretty high?
Yeah, so.
340?
Yeah, so he said he probably looked at it, it's probably closer to 270. He said that
That's good.
that if you did nothing, you probably get at least 10 years out of the sheet piling that's there.
Oh, good to know.
But he said the sooner you address it, the better
Right,
off
but it's
you
not a
are.
rush, it's not.
And he said that this is typical,
Good.
any metal that you put in the water is gonna rust,
Yeah.
right? So this is the way that you
Good to
treat
know.
it, and so this is a common methodology to address that. And he said, even Johnny's picture showed when the surface, the area of the sheet piling above the water line, it's not rusted in all the areas, it's just in certain areas. You could be getting spray, you could be getting other things, so there's not a cohesive rust line across everything.
Yeah.
It's just in certain spots, right? So it's just a maintenance issue, and
Okay.
you do it once, it's gonna protect you for the next 20 years, and then you're gonna have to do it, whoever's here sitting in these seats 20 years from now is probably gonna have to address it then, right?
Yeah,
So-
but we can put that on our list of things to
Yeah,
do.
list of things to do, yeah.
Yeah, he said if you go beyond a couple of years and you're looking at 3 years, then you may have
Nah.
had some additional
Yeah, but
loss.
nothing significant that would undermine the
Good.
structural
Yeah.
integrity of
Good.
it, right?
Good, very good, excellent. All right. Anything else?
The big question that, a few things. One of the big questions that remains is the lighting. Exactly what kind of lighting we want, because the idea of doing solar lights came up. And it's still a question whether we should consider solar lights, whether if we considered solar lights, we would still want to run wires to them so that it's known that if there were too many cloudy days, you would have dimmed lighting if you go purely with solar. And so you might want to back up to run wiring to them so that if there are many cloudy days, you wouldn't have very dim lighting.
Now, we have to come to that conclusion because you're putting the bid out.
Right, so we
you have
need
to-
to decide this.
I thought it was decided.
Yeah.
Well, what was it decided
I thought
at?
we were going to go with hard wiring of the regular lighting, not solar.
There you go.
We really couldn't find a lot
Yeah.
of, information on track records of these lights.
Right. I also spoke to Bishop Electric, who does all the
Well, I
lighting.
had asked him to call you.
Yeah, I spoke to him, and he highly recommended against it.
There you go. Yeah.
Especially if you had a hardwired the solar lights, you're right back in the same place you
Yeah.
are putting in the
Without-
regular lights,
yeah.
right? So he said,
Yeah, so we came to that conclusion, I
Yeah.
guess, already. I mean, we're talking about the big bid package,
Right.
and that's gonna be part of it, so we
Yeah.
have to know.
So there's still.
So we're still there. We're
Okay.
still there. I don't see where we have to go to solar lighting, because we've got to do hard wiring anyway. So let's just go with the other.
Well, the maintenance, you would over time save electric costs by the fact that your solar lights wouldn't be pulling electricity.
Yeah.
And Eric felt that we should talk with the the company that sells it,
Well, that's why we talked.
listen,
We're fine.
past that,
we've been on this project for
We're
9
past.
months.
right.
Solar lighting came up in the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
If this was such an important issue, it should have been up front, not
We're fine.
getting this dropped on us in the last 2 weeks as part of a cost-saving measure.
No.
It's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
No, we'll go back to
And
what-
especially after I spoke with Bishop Electric, who handles all the lighting for the city.
I know.
It was just, it was highly recommended against it.
Yeah, and so we've got to
Yeah.
move
We've
forward.
got to move on.
Yep,
All right, so
Okay.
that's not an issue anymore.
good. We're still waiting to hear from the EPA and.
We're still on City Pier.
Yes, we are.
Correct, okay.
So we're still waiting to hear from the EPA and the DEP about the solutions that we proposed. We had another call with the EPA, and they seem to be totally on board
Oh,
with the way that we're handling the material that needs to be removed from the area along Duval Street. And so there doesn't seem to be any question, but Beta did mention that we're all putting it out to bid, not having the absolute final decision from the EPA and the DEP. And I
correct,
think
even
we're
though
all-
everything looks good.
We're all comfortable with that, but I just
Yep.
wanted to let you know that there is some level of risk here that we're going out to bid, and we're still waiting for those decisions.
Is there a timeline on those decisions as to when they might be made?
Never with them, I don't think.
EPA will turn it, we didn't definitively discuss it, but EPA, has been very, very accommodating to us, like
Yeah.
really getting back to us,
Right.
less 5 days, which
Yeah.
is unheard of.
Right.
So we spoke with Kim Tisa yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, I forget.
Yeah.
And so I suspect that they will turn this around relatively quickly because everything was pretty much agreed to on the phone call. Now it's just a codification of what was
nice.
discussed.
Nice.
So there's no
So
surprises.
it could be during bidding, you'll find out.
Yeah, and so and I say,
Yeah.
and I'm fairly comfortable that on the DEP stuff, the Chapter 91 license, that's going to be considered a minor modification, and that'll also be done
Yeah.
during the bid process.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think we should mention?
No, the only question I get is the two, and this is a question because I didn't, is the 2.5 with a contingency or without a contingency?
The bid limit.
I don't remember.
Well, they're putting it out, the 2.5 is what will go out as the expected cost of the project.
Correct.
That's a good question. Wouldn't you, when you put out the expected cost, it would include contingency, wouldn't it?
Not
Not
unless it states
necessarily,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
Not unless
so
it
we
states
need
it.
to.
Let's
we
clarify
need to
that.
check that.
Because the actual cost of the project is 2.3 and you're carrying a contingency.
Right.
Yes.
That.
So you wouldn't necessarily publish that,
Yeah.
you would just, you want to bid that contract in accordance with what you project the price to be,
Right.
not the price
Yeah.
plus the contingency.
Correct.
Yeah, so we still have, we're still waiting for the specs, the plans, and an updated budget. And so I'm just looking at what they're putting out in the advertisement, but you're right. we've
Well,
got
no,
to
I
make
mean, the
sure-
advertisement has to state that.
It should state
Yes.
your construction price, not
Correct.
the price plus
But
contingency.
your advertisement will have to go in tomorrow for next week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So they're gonna have to, hopefully they'll clarify that.
Before they do it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they do.
Okay, thank you. All right. Sarah?
Bank Street Armory. So we finally got 3 appraisers to respond. We had bonds at 12,000. We had Shepherd at about 7,500. I had sent him a contract, said, yep, go. And he called and said that he had a family emergency and didn't think he could do the project, and he'd get back to me, and he hasn't gotten back to me. And in the meantime, Bernie Giroux and I talked, and he's willing to do it for $4,250, and that's below anybody else. And both John and Ken have agreed that it probably is worth just going with his, and we talked about the project and what comps he might be able to find. All of them have been concerned about the comps that they would have trouble finding for an odd building like this with a defined use, a limited use that is just as an event center. So, so that's where we are. I haven't accepted his bid yet because I just got it, and that's where we are with that.
Do we have any questions relative to getting that? Well, let me ask the proposed buyer. Have we continued communication with him? Okay.
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
We should let him know when we finally have an appraiser
Yeah.
lined up and when their appraisal will be ready. But
Okay.
Bernard Giroux said that he could do it the second week of
okay.
June.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Second week in June. huh?
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Okay.
that was,
That's still 6 weeks out.
everybody, that's what Shepherd and Bonds were saying. And Bertie hadn't bid on it because he had a huge project that just got resolved in court and is no longer his project, so now he can do it.
Okay. All right.
The feasibility analysis of the decking is going out in an RFQ in a week or two.
Yeah.
So that's really moving forward. We don't have the RFQ ready for the Flint neighborhood yet, and that needs to get focused on next week, and I will be calling a meeting of the committee to review that. And the collaboration on projects in the TDI district and South Main Street, I'm sure Ken may want to add something, but the major thing the board needs to decide, and I'm encouraging Joe to do this, is to sign onto an MOU that Mass Development is now requiring all the TDI districts to apply to continue for another year. So because of COVID, all the TDI districts got behind in all of their plans. And so Mass Development for months has been saying that they were considering and expected to extend all the TDI districts for a year to June 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, however, Mass Development sent kind of an application to the TDI partnerships, saying the partnerships, not your TDI fellow, needed to put in a pretty simple application with their members contributing to it, and then all the partners signing on to an MOU for this additional year.
Mm-hmm.
So the city's being asked to sign on, we're being asked to sign on, and I would recommend that we authorize the chair to sign the MOU that we would like to see it continue for another year.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion on behalf of the FRRA to have me sign the TDI partnership MOU with Mass Development to extend the Mass Development support of the Fall River TDI partnership for another year to June of 22.
Motion to move forward with the TDI partnership.
Okay.
As proposed.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second,
John.
Erickson.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Sarah, can I just go back two things?
Okay.
Sarah, do we, to get that appraisal, we don't need to wait till the next meeting to approve that on the warrant, right? Can we just go ahead and tell them to decide who we're gonna use like soon, so we can get it booked?
Yeah.
I mean,
We
we
wouldn't
need to
actually-
vote on that or anything?
I don't know, do we have to vote on selecting?
Did we already vote to authorize this?
We did, but we didn't have the name, who we were going to hire.
Yeah.
I don't remember the vote, but if we want to be safe, we could just take a vote to authorize the chair to sign the contract with Drew when it comes in.
Yep.
It's going to be a pretty basic agreement.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know who we're gonna use, right?
Yeah,
Who
we all
wanna
do.
use.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Was it the 7,500 one? or-
No.
No,
No.
no.
4,200 is that?
4,200?
4250.
Yeah.
I thought we did a vote, but maybe it was a generic one, but why don't we do another one to be
I
safe?
agree.
Yeah.
And just for the board's edification, Giroux has done just about every appraisal for the Redevelopment Authority,
Did not know that.
for all the Commerce Park properties
Oh, very
and other
good.
properties, so they know what needs to be done, so.
Very nice,
yeah.
okay, well, I'm glad they said yes.
Mhm.
So is there a motion to have me enter into a contract to hire them to do the appraisal for the armory, so we can move forward?
Joe, I move we sign up, was it Jerome?
Giroux.
Giroux.
You go in.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Joan? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, so moved. Thank you, that was good.
Do you want to add anything to updates?
Did you hear back from Mass Development on your expression of interest for projects downtown?
No, you put them in.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No.
okay, so we put in on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority, BC, DC, and private partners, right? We forwarded expression of interest for 3 projects. One was for a roof and an elevator onto the building at 289 to 295 South Main Street,
Mhm.
the one that's being just received a variance for market rate housing.
Yeah.
And they've asked us to move forward with the filing of a full application for that request. We also asked, on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority, some planning money to extend the downtown historic district from the Academy Building south to Kennedy Park, and
Wow.
include all those areas. And they declined that request, saying that that's more planning and zoning, and it's something that the city or the Redevelopment Authority should look to do. And the reason that we did that, and we're trying to do that, and it's probably, I don't know, 35,000, maybe 50,000, to do that is, once you establish a historic district, all those buildings within that district now qualify for federal tax credits for redevelopment.
Mhm.
Absent the district, like that building on South Main Street I just talked about, they would have to go in to file their own application to try to get that one individual building nominated and certified on the National Historic Register to be eligible for federal tax credits. And that's a much larger issue than it would be if they were in a district. So I was hoping that Mass Development would fund that, but they decided not to. So moving forward, if the Redevelopment Authority is part of the implementation plan of the as part of the urban renewal implementation plan, if you really want to help accelerate the redevelopment of those properties in that area, it's something you may want to consider down the road, right? Only because it'll enable those properties and those property owners to take advantage of the federal historic tax credits, which you need as part of your capital stack in order to make these things work from a financial perspective. And then I just threw one in on behalf of Cherry and Webb for repointing of the building. They said, yes, we could proceed.
Oh.
Filing a full application for that.
Good.
But that building's already on the register, so that helped
Yeah.
get it a little bit forward. So we were 2 for 3. So.
So Ken, does that mean
But
that
one-
you're restricted, like architecturally, what you can do? You have to use like historic windows and things like that? Or
So all the projects that I've been involved with recently, everything from the Commonwealth Landing project to the 2 Cadero projects to the Durfee Street project that Macomb is doing, to the Notre Dame Rectory project. What you do is you go back and you identify the original design, what the building originally looked like, and you replicate the window treatments that are there, right? The type of window. So yeah, there is some conformity to what the building looked like. Most of it pertains to the exterior, and the interior is a little bit more flexible, but it depends on how the interior is laid out. So for instance, which was an eye-opener to me, there's a lot of churches that are on the historic register, right? But the churches themselves are not good candidates for the securement of federal tax credits for the redevelopment, because the churches
They
themselves,
don't pay taxes.
no, they're large open spaces.
Oh, okay.
And so if you then try to fill that space with walls and things like that, nature, it's not eligible because that wasn't part of the original design.
Yeah.
Right? So you would think that churches would be easily convertible, right? But they're not, because you don't get the federal tax credits. Some of these other buildings, they have interior walls. Some of them may be original interior walls that you try to preserve. Others are, ancillary walls that were put up over time. Those can come out. So you got to do certain things, but you're not specific. A lot of people get threatened by it, but when you're getting a 20% tax credit and a 15% tax credit from the state, that's 35% off your tax credits off your development costs. That's pretty significant.
It is.
And that's what makes these things work.
But you can't go and put vinyl siding on it.
No, you're not going to do it. You got to, if the building is brick or if it's stone, you're repointing, you're doing like they did with Cadero's buildings over here. So you can't, you're not going to change the physical appearance of the building. And you can't knock down a portion of the building either, if that was part of the original building. So there's a few things you got to be cognizant of.
Okay, good. You have any other questions?
No.
No? Anyone? No. Okay, as chairman, I make a finding that an open session would have a detrimental effect on negotiating position of the public body. So I'd like to enter into an executive session vote to discuss the below-named real estate items on the agenda and to approve the executive session minutes of March 31st, 2021, and to not return to open session. So is there a vote to go into executive session?
Yes.
We need a roll call on that, Joe.
Oh, yeah, we'll do a roll call then. Let me get a first and a second, though. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Joan?
Joan Maderas, yes.
Yes. Ann?
Jane Keane, yes.
John Anderson, yes.
Joe Marshall, yes?
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Okay, so we are in executive session. Thank you.